is ripping.
My tummy hurts. Pretty good, right now.
Good evening, guys. It's Nick with Off the Chart Trading. I'll be doing tonight's video that will be for Thursday, March 3rd. Figure we jump into profile. I know I normally save this stuff for the end of the videos, and I made a comment about it on Tuesday, what I was looking for, and that's typically how I use the profile, is almost envisioning different outcomes. It's like building. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically, okay, if this happens and this happens, I could see this happening, and then if this doesn't happen, there's a good chance that that will happen, and so forth. So it's kind of like playing multiple scenarios in your head and kind of envisioning how this all builds out. But basically, I want to go back. I talked about, because that was the last time I did the video on Tuesday, profile didn't look that great, and that we needed confirmation for the following day, which was yesterday, because it was kind of, I don't want to say make or break, but breaking the lows from 225, you could kind of envision that we could build out lower, and that we really didn't. Obviously, if you're long, you didn't want that to happen. And sure enough, what happened? Complete opposite. Profile went from a lowercase b to a lowercase p, which is bullish. We spent the most time and volume. Settlement was up there, and one of the, not that it was a significant level, just looking at previous highs, we did take out a 218 highs. One thing I didn't like is that we literally came up to what, 43.99.50, so right under 4,000. I shouldn't say 4,000, 4,400. So what I mentioned was obviously the opposite. If I could see it building out here, but if you're long, you definitely want to see this potentially going into 4,400. And if you watched Tuesday's video, I mentioned there wasn't that much time or volume around here, so I don't want to say it was clear skies, but there was a high probability that if we broke above 4,400 and held, that we could easily see another 50-point move on the ES, and then potentially get back up to 4,500, whether that was this week, next week, and especially in this market, it's real tough. And not to get sidetracked, but this is overnight activity right here. And as I'm recording this, I think Russia's bombing or artillery strikes to I think one of the biggest nuclear plants in Europe. So, and there's apparently fire, but there's mixed messages, and there's small recordings of it getting hit, but they're saying that's the office building, not actually where it is. And then I just was following something on YouTube, some live thing. I guess I forgot the name of the channel. Brett shared it in Slack, and they mentioned that it was the office building on fire. And then somebody else from Ukraine that was saying that there was a radiation leak or whatever, and the alarms were going off or something. So I don't know. So obviously futures are reacting to that. That obviously can get very, very serious. And it wouldn't be the first time something like that happened over there. Obviously different scenarios, but, and I'm not a, nuclear power plant worker or anything, but I'm pretty sure if they shut that off, the chances of, was it Chernobyl, whatever the name of it was that happened, chances are it wouldn't happen again. But if they are active or live, who knows what could happen over there. So especially since it's way bigger, it is kind of scary. And you can see we actually had like a 60 something point drop here in the futures. And that's exactly, this sums up this market. Everything can look amazing, and then then you get the opposite effect, or vice versa. I mean, it happened today in the room. I forgot what it was. Round 3 of peace talks, and there was something else attached to that. And the market, we had plus 1,200, the highest ticks of the day. I think it was just shy of plus 1,250 ticks. And everyone was talking about potentially going short and breaking lower. And we ultimately did go lower, like an hour or two later. But the point is, if you have, puts that expire, tomorrow, then you could have been up 50%, and you're instantly in one candle down, 20, 30, 40%, or break even, or, whatever the case may be. So it keeps going back to that same, points that I've been making for actually a few weeks, if not the entire year, is you're either, kind of doing what I'm doing, jack of all trades in that sense, is finding stocks you like that you think will be big over the next 5, 10, 15 years and buying them because they're down 60, 70, 80%. And then on the other side of that, you're actively day trading or doing very small swings because nothing's more annoying than having, okay, I'm buying the lows here. We're having follow through spy calls, and maybe we'll go out the week strong, and then boom, you hear about this artillery strike, and then futures are down, and who knows, we could be down another 100 points or whatever the case may be by tomorrow morning, and then that undoes 3 days of work and an overnight session. So I can't stress just being careful in this market right now, and cash is a position, and typically for the newer traders, it's just best to sit out. You don't want to have FOMO when it comes to these types of markets, because I got to get something, or if I went short here I could have made X, or man, I should have gone long. That type of hindsight trading won't really do much in the real world. So I would just advise, and if this is your first rodeo, I would probably just sit out. Probably be the safest thing, because having cash to live to fight another day, I think is more important than just gambling. Because like I said, out of nowhere we got that news, and takes one from being down like 600-700 to being plus 1200 in an instant. And I think some people in the room actually got burned by that today. So it's a very choppy market, very volatile, and there's a lot of moving pieces. Like I said, this is the most volatility we've seen since March lows, so coming up on almost 2 years ago. Almost 2 years to the T, that we're seeing all this craziness. So anyway, not to sidetrack, but I figured since that was happening right now as I'm recording this live, that I would mention it. So we'll see how this pans out. If this ends up not being accurate, or the office building next to it was hit, but the plan itself is intact or safe, we'll probably retrace most of this. If it ends up being true and there's leakage and this and that, then I honestly don't know what I would wake up to. ES could be down 150 points. So just like I said, without any official word, who knows what the market, I mean, it's literally flying blind right now. Charts won't help you, indicators won't really help you. It's literally off of second by second what either algos are reading on Twitter and the internet and stuff, or what's being said on the news. So I personally haven't turned on any news, but I was watching that independent YouTube channel that Brett shared in Slack, just getting information second by second. So we'll see. Obviously we'll probably have a clearer picture tomorrow morning, but it was enough to spook the market and for us to drop like 60-70 points. Actually, from the high of the overnight session so far to the low, that's almost a 100-point move. So it's pretty crazy. But going back to, and once again, you can only deal in the knowns. But what I was getting at is exactly yesterday is what we wanted to see for continuation. I talked about it this morning in the room. That this isn't bad. We didn't really retest lows. We kind of build out where the most time and volume was spent overnight. That's good. We did go to new highs, trying to break out, and then came back in, and then obviously going out somewhat near the highs from the overnight. So basically that little right here, the settlement, and that dot is 9:30 in the morning. We did attempt to go higher, and we failed. So not too crazy, but one thing I did mention, like I said, that follow through is you really wanted to hold on to 4,400 today, and we did not. And then what happened? Profile looks like a copy and paste of this one, where most of the volume and time, and once again the red is just where 30% of the top volume was done. You have VPOC right there, the most time and settlement all down here. The complete opposite of what you want to see. So obviously taking out the news and all the craziness going on as I'm recording this, you would want to see sideways action to upper action, and maybe a retest tomorrow, maybe going out at the highs, or taking something like a 44.20 out into the weekend, on a positive note, kind of how we did last week, where we actually ended up, exiting the week on a high note. So obviously with a lot of international stuff going on, the Fed and inflation and this and that, it's just so many pieces that can affect the market literally second by second. So it's really tough to say, okay, well, if this happens and this happens, like I said, we got what we wanted. It reversed today, and then obviously overnight we're building out lower here. So we'll just have to see how this pans out. But yeah, I mean, that was basically it. I just kind of wanted to show, like, this is what I wanted to see yesterday. We got it, looking for confirmation of higher prices, and we did the price action. But look, only 1 period, 2 periods, so at the most an hour of action at the upper end, and then after that, basically bleeding and having that lowercase b, which is not B for bullish, B for bad. But anyway, so yeah, that's not a very sexy profile, especially if you're thinking that we were potentially going to go higher. Now, once again, we could have something like this, and then the next day it looks great. The reasoning is still intact that once we can close and hold 4,400 and build out, that I think we do end up heading, either back up to 4,500 or at least, I don't want to say smooth sailing, but easier tides from about 4,400 to about 4,450, just rounding up here, because when you zoom out, you can see where the most volume was, and this area is not too bad. So, and there wasn't that much time spent over here. So if we can clear that, hold, and close above it, I think there's a high probability we end up coming back up here. But once again, bombs going off, this going off, and we just retraced about a 30-point move from the low. So who knows? Maybe some of that's fake, or that's something. I think there was some, what was it, flight simulator or some war simulator game or something, was that people were making clips, making it look like it was real, and the creators came out and said, please don't use our stuff to basically fake propaganda, and it's spreading throughout the internet as real, and people can't tell the difference. So it's just, who knows what's going on. But that's why I'm either, you're either cash and sitting out and just watching, you're day trading, quick scalps, low expectations on a dollar amount, or you're like, wow, I love this stock and I think it's going to be big in 10 years, and it's 70% from its highs. You buy it and hold on to it, knowing that it could get volatile, but at least you have a good position in the grand scheme of things. So that's basically it for the profile. Like I said, I wanted to show you that what we wanted to happen yesterday happened. This morning was looking good. It was setting up, but the fact that we couldn't retest overnight highs, that's normally a red flag, and the fact that we built out lower is a second red flag. And like I said, this profile speaks for itself. So definitely the opposite of what we wanted to copy and paste to this up here, closing above 4,400, and we weren't able to do that. And with what's going on right now as I'm speaking, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, especially going into a weekend. Do people really want to be long when, there could be radioactive, like, it's just, I don't know. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. But once again, you're either cash, day trading, or very long-term ideas, because typically when this stuff happens, these are the best times to buy, despite what you might feel. So just keep that in mind. What was I going to say? Let's take a look. One thing I did do, which maybe is a good idea, maybe it's not, I think we did hit more highs today, is Chevron was super extended. Look at that weekly candle, just straight up since the beginning of the year. You have, I count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days now outside the Bollinger Bands on the daily. I always say there's no true measure of, extended or overbought, oversold. You can say, oh, the RSI or my MACD or my whoop-de-wop-de or whatever the case may be is saying we are. I use a few different points of reference when it comes to that thought process, and whether you're using the Keltner channels as ATRs. I mean, if there was a 4 ATR, I mean, if I added it, it would be up here and probably above it. So we are super extended on every point that I would use the word. So what did I do? I ended up taking a short yesterday in Chevron, and I guess you can say that's my short oil play. I know that's kind of crazy right now. I did go out to May just to give me a couple months. I just don't think this is sustainable. And I talk about in the room is sometimes you can be right and still lose money, because with options, obviously there's an expiration. So I might be right that Chevron might go back down to $130 or something along those lines, but it might not happen for 4 months. So that's kind of when you roll the dice with options, is you might have a good setup, you might have a good idea, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. So, or at least within the time frame, that's happened tons of times where I'm like, I think this is going to happen. And it does happen, but it's like 3 weeks after my options expire. So I try to give myself somewhat of time, giving me, what is that, like 10 weeks, give or take, just to see if at least we come in. I'm not looking for a crash in oil. I'm not looking for Chevron to completely eat it. I'm just looking for a small pullback, probably to the 8, which would be about a $10 drop from where it is right now, and just take profits there, because these types of moves typically are not sustainable. The opposite of, catching a knife. Instead of it dropping, you're just throwing it up and trying to catch it as high as possible. So we'll see if it pans out, but that's just basically one of my only trade ideas right now, is just thinking that I still think oil could potentially go higher. We might see 120, something along those lines. But it won't stay that way forever. And like I said, in best case scenario, some of these stocks, people take profits, because you can just look at the extension in Chevron and all these other ones. I mean, Chevron's literally hit all-time highs today, and they've been around a very long time. So I I don't actually know if it's all-time highs, but I'm going to say it's at least a 20-year high because that's as far back as I go. This chart we're looking at, the top left, is a 20-year, 1 month. So I'm going to say it's a 20-year high. Maybe Chevron before 2000 and change was higher. But I'm just going to assume that's an all-time high just based on how oil reacted in, '08, '07, wherever oil was crazy back here. And I think, was it 2014, 2015? Maybe it was 2016. I think, just judging by this price, it was probably oil was like up here above $100 a barrel again. So there's been a few times over the last 20 years, and you can kind of see that it's had nice moves. But this is just next level. I mean, just look at that straight up. So I don't think it's sustainable. I'm fairly confident it will come back. I just don't know if it's going to come back to earth within the next, like I said, I have a few months. So we'll check that out. Let me see. Like I said, overall, I didn't really do much today. It was just basically watch. I don't want to say watching paint dry, but if I don't see a clear setup, I'm not going to play anything. I did play the bounce. I forget where, and I made a little bit in futures, not much, like honestly, and I'm glad I put a stop in because I was long and we ended up seeing some more bleeding. I played micros on the NQ. I think I made like $20 on a 2-lot, which, considering I was down, I think 280 at the lows, I think is decent. Anybody who's if somebody's not a trader and they hear oh, you only made $20, but to be down 280 basically a little after I took the trade, to be able to close it for a profit is definitely a win. But that's basically all I did. I think, let me check my phone. I don't even think I averaged down on any of my stocks today. Let me check orders. I'm on my phone. I trade off my phone. I use my setup for screens and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know if it's a millennial in me or just my hands are quicker, but I just prefer trading off my phone. Yeah, I didn't take a single thing today. So other than that futures thing, so didn't average in, didn't average down, didn't really do anything in that aspect. But what was I going to say? Crypto got hit too, which is kind of funny because you think it would somewhat be similar, even though gold had that spike and then drop a little bit here after hours. You would think they would somewhat trade together, but crypto kind of trades like the NASDAQ. I mean, it's almost like a copy and paste, this chart. Look at that, bottom right to here. It's like literally the same chart. So as of right now, it's not really as a store of value, even though some people might think it is, or this type of, it's like a digital gold, if you will. It's trading like a tech stock. So who knows how long that will, I think eventually over time, people will, kind of disconnect, almost pull the two apart. It is a technology, but its purpose is to be a store of value. So I think that it will trade different from tech stocks over time. Just probably won't be for next, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Who knows when that will happen. But anyway, yen spiking, not too a surprise. Bonds as well. Oil off of that as well, hitting, I think it was 116 earlier. It had a good drop. Yeah, this drop, I think, off of, was it Iran? Iraq, or I forgot who it was. I think it was Iran. There was some potential deal or something along those lines that caused that almost $10 drop per barrel, and it got bought up pretty quick. We didn't get back above that 115. Ultimately, kind of trended down from there, but I guess with everything going on over there right now, it is spiking a bit. TNX did come off of its lows. Like I said, this was at least one silver lining that the 10-year was dropping, but it is slowly climbing back up. Advanced declines look like Kaka today. Put call not as elevated as it was at that 0.8. I would, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being everyone and their brother's, mother, sister's aunt is bullish, and 10 being the extreme opposite, that no one wants to buy a stock because it's the end of the world. 0.8 is like a 7 on that list. So definitely leaning more bearish overall, which is ultimately good if you want to play the long side. Once again, that scale reference. But if we do open up a little lower than we are at right now, I wouldn't be shocked if this shoots up to like 0.9 or something. And then once we start getting above 0.1, it's when you want to be aware. Trend really not really doing too much. Like I said, VIX kind of trended up most of the day, and after we had that cross, for those in the room, they know about the cumulative tick cross, and the VIX kind of told the story for the rest of the day. Tick distribution was pretty balanced, surprisingly. Breadth ratio is not too bullish. I mean, not too bearish considering how price was reaction. The overall trend's down, but yeah, I mean that's basically all I had. I just figured I'd show the profile, and what I wanted to happen happened yesterday. but no follow through. So the fact that we failed to close above 4,400 today is a little alarming, and then we have everything going on right now overseas, which obviously could throw some water on some of this little bit of fire we had to the buy side. So we'll just have to see. But like I said, best advice I can say is just be careful out there. One last thing, and I'll probably name it Free Friday as a video description for you guys that want to come check us out. Actually, right after I'm done here, it's about 8:30. Brett is doing a live webinar. I'll probably just go in and say hi real quick. But for anybody that's still listening to this after 20 minutes, if you want to join us in the room tomorrow, by all means, I'll add the log or the GoToMeeting link in the description. You guys can just click on it, join it, and then basically hang out with us tomorrow during the cash session, which I think Brett normally opens the room around 9ish. I roll in around, I think, like 9:25, give or take, depending on when I drop off my son. But we should be in there tomorrow from about 9ish to 4. So if you want to come check us out, the room will be open. And then depending on when you hear this, unless you're watching it right, when it goes live, the room will probably be closed by then. But try the link as soon as you see it. And like I said, whether you join us tonight or tomorrow, we'll be happy to help you. And look forward to trading with you tomorrow. But on that, you guys have a great night, and I will catch you at the next one. Take care.